First story. I accused my best friend of SAW and ruined his life, believing my new friend's manipulations. It's been 17 years and the truth comes out. Should I try to reconcile with him and apologize? 17 years ago I ruined someone's life. My best friend's life. I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. But now I know the truth. I was wrong. I believed a lie and it destroyed everything. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since I found out. When I was 17, my best friend was Tom. We grew up together and he was like family to me. We'd been inseparable since we were kids. He was the one person I could always count on. He was kind, funny, and steady in a way that balanced out my more anxious and uncertain nature. But that year I got close to someone else. Samantha. Samantha wasn't like Tom. She was bold, charismatic, and completely unapologetic about who she was. She had this magnetic pull that made you feel lucky just to be around her. I let her into my life without hesitation. And before long she became my closest friend at school. Looking back I can see how possessive she was. But at the time I just thought she cared about me in a way no one else did. Things changed when Samantha started making little comments about Tom. It wasn't outright, just enough to make me wonder. She'd point out things about him that seemed odd or overbearing, how he always wanted to hang out. How he could be clingy in a way that didn't seem normal for a guy and a girl who were just friends. I didn't think much of it at first, but those comments stuck with me. They planted this tiny seed of doubt that started to grow without me realizing it. Then came the night of the party. It was one of those big high school house parties where everyone from school showed up. Even the kids who didn't normally drink. I wasn't a drinker. But Samantha kept urging me to loosen up and have fun. I ended up drinking way more than I should have, way more than I'd ever had before. By the time the night was winding down, I was so drunk I could barely keep my head up. Samantha told me I needed to lie down and helped me to a couch in one of the side rooms. I remember her telling me to stay put. That she'd come back to check on me. After that, everything's a blur. I don't remember falling asleep or if I even did. The next thing I clearly recall is waking up in my bed, the next morning with the worst hangover of my life. That's when Samantha showed up at my house. She told me something had happened the night before. She said she'd gone to check on me and found Tom in the room with me. According to her, he'd been kneeling by the couch, touching me, trying to unbutton my jeans. She said she yelled at him to stop and shoved him out of the room. I was horrified. I didn't know what to think or how to feel. I couldn't remember anything from the night before, but Samantha seemed so certain. She told me she hadn't wanted to say anything, but she thought I deserved to know the truth. I kept trying to convince myself it wasn't real. How could it be? Tom had been my best friend for years. But the way Samantha described it, the way she framed everything, made it impossible to ignore. She made it sound like she'd save me. Like if she hadn't been there, Tom would have done something even worse. The thought of someone I trusted so completely betraying me like that was more than I could handle. I didn't confront Tom right away. I didn't know how to face him after what I'd been told. Samantha stayed with me all day, comforting me. Telling me how strong I was for even processing what had happened. At the time I thought she was being supportive. I thought she was helping me. Now I see how calculated it all was, how she used my confusion and fear to drive a wedge between me and Tom. After Samantha told me what supposedly happened that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept replaying everything she said over and over in my mind, trying to make sense of it. I couldn't imagine Tom doing something like that. But at the same time, I had no memory to contradict her. And Samantha seemed so sure. I didn't have anyone else to turn to. I was living with a family friend at the time, because my parents had moved for my dad's job the year before. They thought it would be better for me to stay in the same school and finish high school with my friends. I didn't talk to them much about personal things, and I didn't feel comfortable bringing this up with them. It didn't feel like something they would know how to handle. Samantha was the only person I felt like I could rely on. She kept reassuring me that I needed to protect myself, and that what I was feeling was valid. Looking back, I can see how much I leaned on her during that time, even when I felt unsure about what to believe. It took me 2 days to work up the courage to talk to Tom. I felt sick just thinking about it. But I knew I couldn't avoid him forever. Samantha kept offering to be there when I confronted him. But I decided to go alone. Part of me still hoped that maybe there was some kind of explanation that would make everything okay again. When I finally talked to him, it was one of the hardest conversations of my life. He looked confused at first, like he didn't understand what I was saying. When it finally registered, he looked devastated. He kept saying he didn't do it, that he'd never hurt me, and that he didn't understand why I would think otherwise. But I couldn't hear him. Samantha's version of events was so vivid in my mind, and I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I didn't know how to process what he was saying. I told him I didn't want to see him anymore, and that I couldn't trust him. He tried to convince me to believe him, saying he never visited my room. But I walked away, thinking it was a lie. After that, things started moving quickly. I told the family friend I was staying with what Samantha had said, and she encouraged me to report it, but promised she wouldn't tell my parents after a lot of begging. She told me that if someone had hurt me, it was my responsibility to do something about it. Samantha agreed and said I shouldn't let Tom get away with it. I felt like I didn't have a choice. I went to the police and told them what I knew. I didn't have much to say. I couldn't remember anything from that night, and everything I shared was based on what Samantha told me. They took my statement and said they'd investigate. Tom was brought in for questioning, and the school found out shortly afterward. He was suspended while the investigation was ongoing. Tom tried to contact me once. He left me a voicemail, asking me to talk to him to hear his side. I didn't listen to the whole thing. At the time, I thought it was because I didn't need to hear him try to manipulate me. Now I know it was because I was afraid. Afraid that hearing his voice might make me doubt everything Samantha told me. At school, things spiraled out of control. Word spread quickly, and Tom became the subject of every whispered conversation. People avoided him. Even his closest friends started keeping their distance. I hated seeing what was happening, but I told myself it wasn't my fault. Samantha kept telling me it was what he deserved, and I believed her. The investigation didn't go anywhere. There was no evidence, no other witnesses, and nothing to back up the story. The case was eventually dropped, but by then the damage had already been done. Tom was still suspended from school during the investigation, and when he returned, he was a shadow of the person I'd known. He stopped hanging out with people and avoided everyone. Before the school year ended, his family moved out of town. I didn't even get to say goodbye. Samantha said it was for the best, that I didn't need someone like him in my life. At the time, I believed her. But deep down, I missed him. I missed the friendship we had, even if I didn't know how to admit it to myself back then. For years, I managed to push everything that happened into the back of my mind. It was easier to pretend it wasn't there, to convince myself I'd done the right thing. I thought I was protecting myself. I told myself that what happened to Tom wasn't my fault. Life moved on. I graduated high school, went to college, and started a career. I didn't stay in touch with many people from back then, including Samantha. She moved away after senior year, and our friendship just fizzled out. It felt natural at the time. I didn't try to find Tom, and he never tried to find me. It stayed that way until a few weeks ago. I attended a wedding for an old high school friend. It wasn't something I was particularly excited about. But I thought it might be fun to reconnect with people I hadn't seen in years. I didn't expect anything significant to come out of it. During the reception, I ended up sitting at a table with a group of former classmates, most of whom I hadn't spoken to since graduation. At one point, someone brought up Samantha. They were laughing about how she used to stir up drama, saying she always seemed to have something going on with someone. That's when someone else casually mentioned that Samantha had admitted years ago that she'd lied about Tom. She said Samantha told people at a party that she made up the story because she was jealous of how close Tom and I were. I remember sitting there trying to process what they were saying. It didn't make sense to me at first. I had spent so many years convincing myself that what happened was the truth. Hearing it framed as a lie, one rooted in something as petty as jealousy, was hard to wrap my head around. I asked a few questions, trying to confirm what they were saying. They didn't seem to think it was a big deal. It was just another piece of high school gossip to them, something they assumed I already knew about. But for me, it was like everything I'd believed for the past 17 years was suddenly called into question. When I got home that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I pulled out old boxes from high school, trying to piece together the timeline in my head. I kept going back to every conversation I'd had with Samantha, every moment I doubted Tom but pushed those feelings aside. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I let myself believe Samantha because it was easier than facing the possibility that she might have been lying. I ignored my instincts, my gut feelings, because I was scared of what it would mean if I was wrong. Now, I can't stop thinking about Tom. About everything he went through because of me. About the fact that I never gave him the chance to defend himself. I don't even know where he is anymore. I've tried looking him up online, but there's almost nothing to find. I found an old LinkedIn profile with his name on it. But it hasn't been updated in years. There's no social media, no pictures. Nothing that tells me where he is or what he's doing now. It's possible he's moved on and built a new life for himself. But it's also possible that what happened back then is still affecting him. Either way, I can't shake the feeling that I owe him an apology. At the same time, I don't know if reaching out would be the right thing to do. What if hearing from me just brings back all the pain I caused him? What if he doesn't want to hear from me at all? I don't want to make things worse for him. But staying silent feels wrong too. Comment 1. Wow. You didn't just ruin someone's life, you did it based on a second-hand story from someone who was clearly manipulative. You handed your so-called best friend over to the wolves, without even giving him the benefit of the doubt. And now, 17 years later, you're thinking about an apology. Do you really think that's going to fix anything? You say you want to apologize. But you're also worried about whether it's selfish to contact him. Newsflash, it is selfish. This is about easing your guilt, not helping him. You didn't care about the truth back then, so why does it matter to you now? Let him live his life. He's probably better off without you dragging all this up again. Comment 2. You keep talking about how much guilt you feel. But what about Tom? What about the years of pain and suffering you put him through because you chose to believe someone else over your best friend? You didn't just ruin his reputation. You destroyed his future, his friendships, and probably his mental health. I have to ask. Did you ever actually question Samantha back then? Or did you just go along with everything she said because it was easier than admitting you might be wrong? Also, you mentioned the police got involved. What happened with that? Did you ever realize how serious the consequences were going to be for him? Comment 3. Okay, I get that you're feeling guilty now. But I have so many questions. First, why didn't you question Samantha at all? Even at 17, wouldn't it have crossed your mind that someone might have their own motives? Second, how exactly did this impact Tom's life? You said he moved away. But was he ever able to recover from this? I'm also wondering if Samantha's confession was ever brought to light in a way that might have cleared Tom's name. Did anyone from your high school know the truth after she admitted to lying? Honestly, if you're going to apologize, you should be prepared to answer these questions. And honestly, the apology should come with something more. Have you considered offering reparations or doing something tangible to help him? Update. First, I want to thank everyone who commented on my post. Reading through your responses was hard. But it was necessary. Many of you pointed out how selfish I've been even now by thinking about apologizing as if that could make things better. I've spent weeks reflecting on that. And I know you're right, I've been focusing on my own guilt, instead of the impact I had on Tom. But I couldn't stop wondering about him. I needed to know what happened to him after everything. Maybe I didn't deserve to know. But I felt like I owed him at least that much to acknowledge what became of the life I played a part in destroy. I started by reaching out to someone we went to high school with. We weren't close. But they were part of our friend group at the time. And I knew they still lived in the town where Tom's family moved after they left ours. I asked if they knew anything about him, framing it as wanting to reconnect. That's when they told me he had died. They didn't have many details. But they mentioned a local news article that had covered it a few years ago. When they sent me the link, I couldn't bring myself to open it right away. When I finally did, it confirmed everything. The article was short, just a factual account of a man found dead in his apartment. It said he had died from an overdose and that he'd been living alone. There wasn't anything about his family or friends. I can't stop thinking about that. He was completely alone, with no one there for him. I keep wondering what his life had been like after he left town. Did he ever manage to find peace or happiness? Or did what I did follow him until the end? For years, I've been telling myself that I wasn't fully responsible for what happened. I was young, scared, and manipulated by someone I trusted. But the truth is, I made the decisions that hurt him. I let Samantha's lies push me to act without questioning her. I was the one who went to the police, the one who turned my back on him when he needed me the most. I've thought about reaching out to Samantha. A lot of you asked why I haven't confronted her, and honestly I don't know if I can. It's been years since we last spoke, and the thought of bringing this up with her feels overwhelming. What would it even accomplish? It wouldn't undo what happened, and it wouldn't bring Tom back. I've also considered trying to contact people who might have known Tom in his later years, but I don't know what I'd say. How do you explain that you're the person who helped destroy someone's life, and you want to know more about what became of them? It feels wrong to drag anyone else into this. For now, I'm trying to figure out how to live with this and how to honor his memory in some way. I've been researching organizations that support people in recovery, or those who've been falsely accused, and I'm thinking of volunteering or donating. It feels small compared to what I did, but I don't know what else to do. To everyone who told me to own up to my actions, I hear you. This guilt is mine to carry, and I don't expect forgiveness from Tom, from anyone else, or even from myself. But I want to try to at least do something meaningful, even if it's too late for him. Second story. My stepson is getting bullied at school, asked for a birthday party with us, but my delusional wife canceled his plans and forced him to invite his classmates. Not a single kid showed up, humiliating and ruining his birthday, so I gave her a reality check. Now she says I have no right or say in raising her son. My fiancé 29F and I 28M have been together for 2 years. For the most part, things are really good. She has a son 8M from a previous relationship. The dad isn't involved. Together we're our own little family unit. The issue is over the son's recent birthday party. He's having trouble in school and has been made a target. My fiancé and I have both talked to the school. They give the same lip service. I suggested changing schools, but my fiancé says no school's perfect. The son wanted a small birthday party. Nothing major. He just wanted to spend the day with us at a park. My fiancé instead made him invite his entire class and planned a big day. Not a single child came. It was just us with trays of food and a bunch of birthday decorations. Waiting was the worst part. He's had some rough days, but I've never seen him so down. He was humiliated. It bothered me, and I felt something needed to be said. My fiancé and I had a talk that night, and I stated that I thought we should have listened to what the son actually wanted instead of pushing a big party. She believed that I should be supporting her, and said it's not my place to interfere with matters involving her son. There was an emphasis on her son. Our talk turned into a big argument. Her comment was a blow. I realize I'm not the bio dad, but I'm the constant male figure in his life. We've grown close. I'm the one who has those serious talks with him. I'm someone he asks for advice, who drops him off at school and picks him up. I help him with homework, engage in his interests, show up on outings, etc. I might not be his bio dad, but don't treat me like some uninvolved bystander. My fiancée was always popular in school. She doesn't relate. I know what it's like to be unwanted in a room. I know what it's like to hate being in the school hall. My fiancé just believes he needs to try harder to assert himself. There's still some tension between my fiancé and myself. Thanksgiving was awkward, which is ironic since it's supposed to be about thankfulness. The son has started to notice the rift and asked about it. My fiancé feels I overstepped. I feel differently. AITA. Some of OP's comments. Invitations. My fiancé had made invitations and arranged for his teacher to help him hand them out. He didn't have much of an opportunity to not give out the invites. Commenter. And frankly, sometimes it is very okay to not try harder to assert yourself. He'll likely end up with a few solid friends who will mean a lot more than the level of friendship he could have with several people at once. Quoted from a different commenter, this commenter's last sentence has me thinking. How many friends does your fiancé still have from high school, OP? Up. Not many. There are a few girls she's kept in touch with. And they have annual reunions. But she talks about her school days like the best of times. Commenter. Ugh, that's a red flag in and of itself. Does she have any close and meaningful friendships? Or are they all shallow like her high school days? Up. Those girls are the core for her as far as standing friendships go. Commenter. NTA. By inviting the class, I hope she's aware that she just opened her son up for more ridicule and tormenting. Everyone will know that nobody came. I don't know what she is thinking. You have every right to speak up for him. And she should be thankful that you want to. Yes, this very well may be because she was popular and her son isn't. And she doesn't ask. Up. She talks about how she had the big birthday parties and how her house was the house and all this stuff her and her friends did. I tried to get her to see that his experience is different from hers. The parties and stuff are what she wanted. It's not what he wants. Dropping him off at school that day, knowing he was now going to have to face those kids after getting ghosted, was particularly rough. I don't think she relates to the struggle and feels if he tries harder, everything will click in place. I don't think he needs to try any harder. He's a good kid and considers others. OP is voted NTA. Update 1 week later. Thanks everyone for the input. The outside perspectives helped me 28M tackle this situation with my fiancé 29F. Things were still rocky between us. We've had fights, but we're usually able to communicate. This issue was different. We both felt strongly about our stances with her son 8M. The son noticed the rift and took it as we were disappointed in him after the birthday party. I reassured him that nothing was his fault. My fiancée usually leaves these kinds of talks to me because she says that I'm better with the emotional stuff. I wasn't sorry for speaking up. He was humiliated, and it happened because of him being forced into a party he never wanted. My fiancée and I arranged to talk while he was at school. She felt we needed to hash things out too. It was my hope that we could work toward a solution. We both started off apologizing for contributing to the fight and letting it drag out. I told her that I was hurt by how dismissive she was of me, and how I needed to keep out of issues with the son. She's never pulled that card. She wanted me to have a presence with him. She said that she spoke out of anger and didn't mean any of it. She felt judged and took everything she was holding in out on me. I expressed that the son needed an advocate, and he sometimes struggles speaking up because he wants her approval. This was something we discussed before. She admits pushing a party was wrong. She said that she loves the role I take with the son, but feels that he and I connect in a way that they don't. And that's hard for her. I tried reassuring her that she's his mom, and no other bond could negate that. She's one of the only people he wanted to spend his day with. I'm here to support both of them. But that doesn't mean agreeing with her on everything. I feel chasing popularity will only be trouble as he gets older. Something that was recommended on here was therapy. I thought it would be good for us. She wasn't entirely closed to the idea. She's hesitant about the notion of therapy. The son will be changing schools. We're also looking for clubs for him. He has a talent for drawing. I'm honestly impressed every time. I'm encouraging my fiancé to embrace his creative side. I believe my fiancé means well and wants the best for the son. But I feel she has to be more receptive of what he's telling her. He may never be popular. Most kids aren't. It doesn't mean he's doing something wrong. Kids and people in general can be cruel. I even told her if she and I had gone to school together, her friends probably would have made fun of me. The son's experience is his. He'll come into his own. Overall, we did better talking instead of going at each other, which is better for everyone involved. I'm still going to speak up for the son. When I was his age, there were times I wished someone spoke up for me. Thanks again to everyone for the support. I really appreciate it. Top comment on post Hungry Book: has the mom ever had a heartfelt one-to-one convo with her child on how he truly feels? Like actually get down to his level and ask what he truly wants in life and such. You'd be surprised at how much 8-year-olds can express their wants needs. Lemon_Charlie: this was definitely a wake-up call for OP's fiancé. When the future step-parent has a better relationship with your own son than you do. The important thing is how she responds, if she can listen to their son, or if she'll slip back into projecting expectations again. I want to be Anemone. She's emotionally neglecting her kid. Not once has she considered his feelings, his interests, or his wishes through the whole ordeal. All things you've been advocating for the whole time. What did she do to try and salvage the failed party? Or did she dive right into ranting about how it was ruined? Fiancé shouldn't have needed you to tell her she's being selfish. She should have listened to the kids' needs to begin with instead of pressing on with a performance. She felt she needed to put on to earn some kind of social clout to demonstrate what a good mom she is. Therapy isn't optional. It's essential. Mothers like her result in kids suffering from severe depression and anxiety long into adulthood, where they'll get therapy anyway to undo the damage done. The only thing she can ever completely control is herself. So if she wants things to change for the better, then she can learn ways to actually communicate with her child, instead of offloading all the emotional labor on OP. Nothing will change for a kid if his own mother is ashamed of him for not being an extrovert. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button and share it with your friends.